At the ripe age of 12, I found my calling in Horizon Middle School's production of Annie. That's right, at 4'10", I really embodied the body of 52-year-old bald Daddy Warbucks. Nothing could have warmed the audience hearts more than watching a preteen in a bald cap sing about a wealthy man's loneliness. Something my suburban living, no bank account having self really thought I had a handle on. As it turns out, all that bossing, belittling, and belting just showed me what it meant to perform anger. And it set me up for the last 5 years of similar performance. Only now, the spotlight has shifted onto what social scientists are calling the theater of outrage, as defined by Tariq Lawal in his 2026 Brown Political Review article. The theater of outrage is the public display of anger over social issues, oftentimes to signal virtue or gain validation. And hey, it turns out Shakespeare was right, because in our massively polarizing world of conflict as content and keyboard warriors, oh, the world really is a stage, and attending this production is vital. So today, let's first take our seats to see the upsides of public outrage. Then, pull back the curtain on some serious drawbacks before taking a final bow by looking at a case study close to home. As she belted out, "Bet your bottom dollar that tomorrow there'll be sun." My sixth grade co-star Annie's optimism was wildly comforting, also wildly off-key, and wildly inaccurate, because better tomorrows rarely come on their own, instead instigated by individuals angry enough to challenge the status quo. First, we see it. Virality provides serious visibility. Take, for instance, the Me Too movement. Originally coined by activist Tarana Burke in 2006, it then went viral in 2017. Forbes reported that within 24 hours, 12 million women had shared their personal stories of sexual abuse. This brave sharing of personal outrage transformed a simple hashtag into a global phenomenon, spreading to over 85 countries and generating over 40 million mentions, demonstrating the power that public anger can have when visibility takes center stage. Second, when a performance is rooted not in vanity, but humanity, we believe it. In 2019, comedian and anchor of The Daily Show Jon Stewart gave an impassioned 9-minute speech to Congress, calling for adequate healthcare and resources for the 9/11 first responders. His testimony got views, and then it got results. As ABC News explained just days after the hearing, it was his powerful, justified performance of outrage theater that made Congress, the group famous for never acting quickly, fully fund the act. Above all, Stewart squared his case on a human level. He believed in them, and we, in turn, believed in him. Third, we act on it. Public outrage performed with fidelity galvanizes the masses. Like earlier this year, thousands marching through the freezing streets of Minneapolis to condemn the fatal shootings done by ICE agents, as a part of nearly 1,000 anti-ICE rallies planned nationwide. And the sustained public pressure didn't end with just the marches. Within days, immigration official Gregory Bavino was removed from his Minneapolis post, and Kristi Noem was sent to the doghouse. I mean, at least it's empty now. Woof. And our performance, it wasn't just a performance. It resulted in real personnel change and policy shifts, demonstrating that when we act, those in power react. However, awareness without outrage and outrage without awareness is like singing tomorrow into an empty theater. It's inherently useless. Which brings us to our second act, the 3 ways that outrage fails us. First, as we've established, virality provides serious visibility. None more visible over the last decade than our commander-in-chief, President Donald Trump, who, according to The Guardian, and this is real, has been likened to a modern-day Daddy Warbucks. And his entourage is caught on too. And it's an odd moniker considering Trump seems more interested in creating and deporting orphans than actually adopting them. Which is why Dr. Jennifer Mercier, communication professor at Texas A&M, analyzed his various tweets and truths. and labeled him as the Outrage president. And it turns out Trump's seemingly arbitrary capitalization of both words and entire phrases actually has a name: language intensity. Mercedes continues. Trump is the first president to take advantage of the outrage media and the algorithmic bias towards outrage and use it for his presidency and his campaign. Second, when vanity hijacks humanity, sadly we believe that too. This is tied to what the Cleveland Clinic calls emotional contagion. Our emotions unconsciously hijack the feelings of those around us, and researchers at the NIH saw this clearly during the COVID pandemic, when individual anger rapidly turned into group outrage, and the cooped-up public had no place to release it. When we are loudly angry about something, we get all riled up, but lose steam just as fast. Third, public outrage can galvanize action, but it could just as often be just an act. A little stage magic and sleight of hand to satiate our anger. And this isn't necessarily a moral failing. It's human psychology. The Cleveland Clinic continues. Moral outrage gives a psychological closure. When we post, our brain registers effort, and then our effort, it stops. A Lancaster University study of over 1 million social media posts linking to a change.org petition reveal a glaring disconnect. While outrage can increase a post's virality, it rarely translates into tangible action. This breeds lazy advocacy. This happens when individuals expose, shame, repost, and condemn, but don't follow up to donate, volunteer, or educate. So, how can we tell the difference between performative outrage and progressive outrage? For our final act, let's shine the spotlight on our own activity, and the big daddy tournament of them all, Nationals. As many witnessed via live stream, the 2025 NSDA Nationals in Des Moines. Up to 5,000 of us, speakers, coaches, and spectators, were evacuated from that convention center when a young man, in the midst of a serious mental health crisis, climbed onto the stage and someone yelled, "Run." So we did. And it was scary as hell, and mass panic ensued, but when the makeshift stage of that convention center cleared, the stage was set for the theater of outrage. Let's look at reactions and apply what we've learned. Within seconds of sprinting to safety, attendees opened up their phones, unaware of the truth behind the situation, and began to type #NSDA do better. Their language intensified. They felt emotional contagion, and they sought instant closure. Professor Jason Whiting explains this reaction for Psychology Today. Anger, like this, is seductive because it applies an external target. Instead of examining our stress, we zero in on another convenient person. Or in this case, an entire organization. We blamed the NSDA. We blamed a young man in the midst of a serious mental health crisis, who, by the way, is a former national champion and part of our community. And finally, we blamed specific students, including the one who was interrupted and my former teammate, who was put on blast over Instagram and TikTok comment sections. These two young performers felt the truest impact of performative outrage. This was outrage theater. Like Trump, we use the same words that we warned against in our orations. Our language intensified. We engaged in emotional contagion antithetical to the NSDA Code of Conduct. And finally, we did it for no other reason than self-validation. In a community that claims to celebrate marginalized voices, we chose to do the exact opposite and instead amplify our own. When the unexpected hits, outrage theater will always be the easiest ticket in town. But, in the words of the late Minnesota Senator Paul Wellstone, we all do better. When we all do better. And now, we know better. When outrage helps us see clearly, believe humanely, and act authentically, we can stop settling for that empty applause. Not tomorrow, today.